Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone hit bookshelves in 1997, becoming a worldwide sensation in just under a few months. Millions of copies sold, and three sequels later, the film adaptation of the first book hit theaters, going on to become a raging success of Warner Brothers and, of course, the author, She Who Must Not Be Named. Since its release, it has gone on to become one of the most rewatched films of all time, specifically during the festive season which we're currently in. On this episode, we jump back into the wonderful world of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone, depending on where you are, discussing our personal experiences with the book and the film, some of the most memorable moments from the movie, and how its legacy has sustained nearly 24 years on. I'm Abhin, that's Rohit. This is the Two Please podcast where we discuss all things pop culture, film, and entertainment. Let's start the show. Yeah, before we jump into this episode, I want to quickly preface this. We have done an episode discussing Harry Potter and the Chris Columbus Christmas movie way back in 2021, in the early days of the podcast. We discussed why people watch these films over this festive period. Like, in not great detail, we kind of just skimmed over a bunch of things, spoke about our experience with this series overall. But what Rohit and I decided to do this time around is we decided to just sit down and each Christmas for the next couple of years, just break down a single Harry Potter film, because clearly it's being rewatched. It is right now on Google Trends. It's having a breakout moment on Indian streaming channels or like platforms like Hotstar. It is probably the third or the fourth most watched film or TV show at this point in time. So there's clearly a lot of love for this series, in spite of the several controversies surrounding its author, which we have addressed in prior episodes. Funnily enough, we'd planned Eyes Wide Shut to be the Christmas movie this year.
Yeah,
But
it was either this or Eyes Wide Shut. So I was like, hey, can we please do Harry Potter instead?
yeah, I've been pitching it to Rohit, and Rohit's just been like, why are you doing this to me? And I understood, you know what, Eyes Wide Shut is quite dreary. It is a Christmas movie, but it's quite a dreary subject, and the world is quite shit as it is. Might as well, bring back some sort of joy in our lives. And what better place to start than Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone?
Let's start with our first impressions and any memories that we have associated with the film, right? That's usually how we kick our discussions off. I have a very distinct memory with regard to watching the first film. I think I've mentioned this in parts across multiple episodes. I remember in 2000 I had moved from Bombay to Dubai, and I had joined a new school, trying to make new friends, and you know all that all of that that goes with that. I remember getting onto the school bus, and all everyone was talking about was I think the trailer for Harry Potter had come out. This is late 2000, or at least there was chatter that Harry Potter was in the works and whatever. I don't remember the exact context. I was 9 years old, and at that point I had not heard of Harry Potter. I had not read the books. I wasn't aware of the property in and of itself. I remember trying to get in on the conversation, and it felt like a very insulated conversation, in the sense that you sort of needed to know who Harry Potter was to get involved. I sort of wanted to make new friends, right? So I'm like, hey, what are you guys talking about? What is Harry Potter? And I got this look from all the kids around me, like I'd asked something stupid, like, what is the sun? They were like, you not do you not know what Harry Potter is? I was like, no, what is that? They're like, don't talk to us until you've like read the books. Go figure that out. We don't know who you are. Some random new person on the bus. First, go read the books, and then we'll chat. I remember going home that day, telling my parents, drop everything else. I must have this Harry Potter. They're like, what is that? I said, I don't know. First, we'll figure that out, then we shall acquire it. And that's how I initially read the first book. In fact, I think by the time the movie came around and by the time I got around to watching it, which also I didn't watch it in theaters, I got it off those roadside DVDs. But by the time I'd finally seen the movie, I think I'd read the first two or first three books. Yeah. I mean that's this whole introduction of me to Harry Potter. Again, when I watched the first film, I mean essentially it is Harry's and through him our introduction to the entire world that J.K. Rowling has built. And there's such a strong sense of amazement, wonder, excitement, incredulity, all of that. That's part of us experiencing that for the first time. And Chris Columbus has done a great job of putting that sentiment across. Because even for Harry, it's the first time he's like wide eyed, looking at everything, taking it all in, just like us. No, I would say the first act of the film is you get coming to terms with the world. And then once he gets into the routine of Hogwarts, while yes, there's the whole Voldemort angle and whatnot, because it's the first year, things are still a lot more innocent. It's just a very warm, very snug, cozy sort of, I would say, treatment of the film, and therefore a watching experience. Which is even as a kid, I would go. It was my comfort film, right? Whenever I was like, hey, I got bad marks or something, I would go and watch Harry Potter. It all feels silly now. We have much bigger problems in life. But yeah, that was Harry Potter for me.
So, okay, I'm going to keep this very brief and very short. So, my personal experience with Harry Potter began in the year 2000, much like yourself. In school, there was a lot of chatter about these books, and I did not know which was the first book, which was the third book, second book, whatever. Goblet of Fire had just come out. I'd seen it at a cousin's house. And I'd read the first 3 pages of Prisoner of Azkaban, and I figured that's what I wanted to read. So my grandmother at the time, no clue what, she had no idea what I wanted. Every time she would come down to Bangalore, she would get me like a book to read because I was really into reading growing up. And she asked me this time what I wanted, and I said Prisoner of Azkaban. It was a book I had gotten halfway through by the fall of November 2001, when, much like yourself, my father came home with like this weird cam ripped print of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone on a VCD. By the end of it, I was just like, wow. Actually, I think it was December. It was a December holiday, so it's right about this time. So I was just amazed. I wanted to watch it again, but we'd rented it out. It was one of those things where you couldn't own it, so I had to give it back the next day. But I was like so transfixed, and then I decided to go read. I'm like, okay, I've read this. I mean, I'll assume I'll get to Philosopher's Stone later, but I had Chamber of Secrets at home, which I went immediately to and read. Then I read Azkaban, and then I went back to the Philosopher's Stone, and then Goblet of Fire immediately after. So it was this weird
Wait,
mumbo
what?
jumbo scenario. Yeah, exactly. So I went 3, 2, 1, 4. That's how I read the series of books. For anybody who knows me, this seems to be very in line with the kind of person I am. Like the early roots of my character development began there. And
Yeah,
when this movie
stumbled through
eventually
them.
hit, pretty much, yeah, stumbling through books as you stumble through life. By the time the summer holidays had come around in, I think, April, May, this movie was in theaters. I then proceeded to watch it in the theater 9 times. Like, it is probably the first film I have seen 9 times. As a matter of fact, I used to know this movie by heart, like line for line by heart.
Yeah,
There
I think
is
me as well.
now, I watched it again last night in preparation for this episode. I haven't seen this movie in years, and I've clearly forgotten big chunks of it, but there are things that just pop up. So much so that I was watching it with a friend, and he turned to me and said, "What bullshit you said? You've forgotten that you remember this entire movie. You've been quoting it for the last 20 minutes." And I was like, "No, dude, there are like literal chunks of this that I don't remember. There, like, because I don't know what it is. Maybe just life, work. So many things have happened, and you tend to just be preoccupied with whatever shit that gets thrown at you on a daily basis. So whenever you go back to this and you describe it as as a snug blanket, it felt like a warm hug. It still feels like a warm hug. One of those places you go back to when you see comfort. The wonderful thing that I can describe about this is that Harry Potter represents one of the nicer parts of my childhood, which was me sitting by myself rereading thoroughly to the point where the books are in tatters. It was my comfort space. So when I watch or engage with anything around that time, I get taken back to the time where things were a lot more, you know, peaceful, and just we had issues, but in comparison, like,
Yeah, things are simpler. I mean,
exactly.
yeah, what's the worst that could happen? You would score a few marks lesser in a unit test or some shit like that, right? Which now you're like, who gives a rat's ass?
Like, let me go
Uh,
back to unit test problems. That's
I
even that
know.
those are problems I can handle.
If life were just unit test problems or unit test,
Exactly.
let's take a peek behind the scenes of the film. Abhin, if you have any stories to share from the production.
Let's talk about how this movie came to being, right? So 97, this book releases, and it starts to creep up. In the UK it explodes, but in the US it takes, I think, a year. It gets released as Sorcerer's Stone. Very strange choice. I think we'll get into it at some point. I think the US Fiji and India are the only three places where it released as the Sorcerer's Stone, even though our book copies say Philosopher's Stone. So this book comes out in 97, 98, Chamber of Secrets is out, 99, Prisoner of Azkaban comes out, J.K. Rowling is on a roll. And in 99, Warner Brothers acquires the rights for the first film for $1 million. And they decide to like shop a bunch of names around. Directors like Steven Spielberg. I think Spielberg is the first one they approach, and he decides not to follow through because he's working on AI, which was a project that Stanley Kubrick had picked up. He's seeing it to completion, so he says no. They go to Robert Zemeckis, they go to Terry Gilliam, they go to a bunch of people, but they ultimately settle on Chris Columbus because he's excellent working with children. I think Home Alone obviously stands as testament to that. And, of course, he's had like Mrs. Doubtfire, a bunch of other films. And he went through this rigorous casting process, which saw the casting director quit. They saw like over 1,000 children before they ultimately, checked in on the three, which were Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson. Now, Daniel Radcliffe was, I think, Chris Columbus had seen him in like a BBC adaptation of David Copperfield, and he liked what he'd seen, and he approached his parents, and his parents said no initially because they were apprehensive about the spotlight that it would bring on their son, who at the time was just 9 or 10. But they eventually relented. Ratcliffe got paid $1 million for this role back in 2000, which is unprecedented for a child actor. And it said that when Chris Columbus showed J.K. Rowling test footage for Harry, she said, "You couldn't have found a better actor. This guy's like, even if I tried, I couldn't have found someone. This is the perfect kid." Rupert Grint's story is quite funny. He sent a rap of himself talking about why he should be cast for the role, and they liked his charm and they put
Of
him in the
course.
cast. Emma Watson, I think about 9, again, like a bunch of like 8 to 9 times she auditioned with the casting agent, and eventually they got her on board because she was just so knowledgeable about the source material, and and it really came across the way they were intending. So these three got cast. And then this was, I think, J.K. Rowling's golden rule, and this has been public knowledge for quite some time, is that the film remain exclusively English. Like the cast either remains either from the United Kingdom or from Ireland, right? There were rumors because this is 2000. I think Haley Joel Osment was one of the biggest child actors nominated for an Oscar. There were rumors running around that he was going to be Harry Potter, but that quickly got squashed because of Rowling's rule.
Imagine the whole scene where they first meet nearly headless Nick and Haley Joel Osment. Like, I see dead people. Everyone, shut the fuck up, you and BC. You're not special. Let's move on.
The Sixth Sense sequel we didn't know that we just needed. And then comes the casting of Dumbledore. Now, we did an episode recently on the worst book to film adaptations, and some gentleman has left a long paragraph of why he thinks the Hobbit adaptations are great and why the Potter films suck. And one of the things that he mentioned was that they made Dumbledore this walking corpse by casting Richard Harris in it. And this was an issue that Richard Harris himself pointed out. At 71, he didn't want to commit to a series of films, but his 11-year-old granddaughter, who was a fan of the series, said she'll never talk to him if he doesn't take it up. Now, in the books, Dumbledore is described as being a lot older, being a lot younger than he actually looks. As a matter of fact, in the back cover of this book, this is Dumbledore, if you can see.
Oh, wow. It looks like
It's
the
a
Jude
very
Law Dumbledore.
Yeah, it's a very different Dumbledore compared to the Dumbledores that we knew. The
Yeah,
copy where
that
it's
actually
white
looks
beard.
like Jude Law with the beard and the
That was primarily one of his gripes, and I think a lot of and a small minority feel that way about the casting. I personally love Richard Harris as Dumbledore. Like, I know Ian McKellen was offered the role, but he'd said yes to Gandalf, which also, like, Fellowship of the Ring also comes out this year, and
worked out for the best, all things
the for
considered.
the best.
For
I mean,
everybody.
I would
Yeah.
have, yeah.
I'm not saying he wouldn't have made a great Dumbledore, but I think he makes a better Gandalf. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some of the casting bits, and then they shoot this film. I think Stuart Craig is the production designer. He comes through and he bases a lot of the sets on old cathedrals. They build the Great Hall from scratch in Leavesden Studios to give it this ethereal, mythical feeling. They shot in a bunch of old colleges in the UK. I want to quickly talk about some stuff they've omitted from the book. Are there any portions for you that you felt like you wanted to see in the film but just didn't end up making it?
Not so much in the first couple of films, I would say. I remember vaguely mentioning this even in the Chris Columbus episode. I think he benefited from having adapted the first two books. I mean, compared to how much happens in the subsequent books, there's a lot less to adapt, right? In terms of volume of events happening. So I remember having gripes in later books, I think three onwards, where I was like, hey, I wish this had been in, I wish they hadn't cut that. But not so much for the first couple of movies.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like things that were missing. There are obviously like tweaks here and there. Also, I think it's important to address how quickly this film moves, right? It just there are
Yeah.
the first three chapters of this book are done in like the first 5 minutes. It just runs
Yeah.
through. So Chris Columbus just essentially does okay, chapter this with this is getting adapted, this is getting adapted, and he just kind of just starts sending things through. Like the only part that I would have liked to see is the potions task, which they omit from the task that they have to like, or the obstacles they need to overcome to get to the Philosopher's Stone in the end of the book or at the end of the movie. I would have liked to see that. I think it's the door where they have to decide what portion to take, like who walks through the door and who's able to walk back out through the purple flames. Hermione is the one who solves it, but I guess because she does the devil's snare, like each of them gets one thing, right? Harry does the flying keys room, Ron does the chessboard, and Hermione does devil's snare. So I guess they were like, okay, we don't really don't need it, so they probably cut it. I didn't quite understand why Ron was on the knight and just didn't get off the knight
Yeah,
before it whacked
exactly.
him. Turns out, like in the book, he's on the square. There is no knight, so it's them on the square, and they risk getting physical harm. And I guess showing a 11-year-old kid getting beaten over the head by a gigantic queen wasn't exactly going to pass through censors. So I guess that's why the knight exists. And before I forget, I think this is probably the one big omission from the book is the lack of Peeves in the film. Like Peeves the poltergeist plays a
Oh,
huge part,
yeah.
yeah, in the book, and especially when they're walking down the corridor. I remember the phrase going, "Are you a ghoulie or ghosty or wee student beastie?" is what he keeps yelling as the three are walking under the cloak. So Peeves was cast. Rick Mayall, who is a famous English comedian, theater actor, who's also in Blackadder, he plays Captain Flashheart,
Yeah.
was cast as Peeves. Like had scenes in the movie which they ultimately cut. I think Columbus had to like scold him a bunch of times on set, asking him to keep stuff PG in front of the kids because his humor was quite let's say inappropriate for the children that he was working with. I think besides that, the rest of it is just true to the source material. There's not a lot of changes. In fact, I think there's slight stuff that's been tweaked here and there. But for the most part, like you'd mentioned in the prior episode, this is the most faithful adaptation of, I think, any of the books. This and probably Chamber of Secrets, a close second.
Yeah, the smaller scope of the story. So I don't per se have any production stories to add. I think you've covered everything that I wanted to say. Let's dive into memorable moments from the film, which, to be honest, again, this is one of those movies where every scene could be a memorable moment and we could sort of, just recount the entire film. But what still stands in your mind, like to the point where you can recall it from keeping aside the fact that you watched the movie again last night, but regardless, stuff that you can recall even to this day.
Before I even get into the most memorable visual moments of the film, the moment the Warner Brothers logo kicks in and then it opens up on the Privet Drive signboard, it's the theme that really gets your attention. John Williams is a fucking legend. And you think by now, having gone through his extremely like legendary discography of soundtracks, that he would have kind of just phoned this in. But he really manages to capture that magic and whimsy that is so essential to this film and to the series' narrative. Almost like decompresses you. It's like putting someone puts a pin in you and goes, "Okay, chill out."
Yeah.
It kind of perfectly sets the tone for what is about to happen. It's like this is a small contained adventure. There are thrills, there are moments of joy, there's moments of emotion. But at the end of this 2.5 hour film, you are going to leave content. And I think the score does a phenomenal job. In fact, I'd probably not his best work even on the series, but we'll get to it for that episode when we eventually come to that.
In fact, I would say, going against form, the one moment which is ironically memorable to me, which for me is probably the weakest part of the film, the weakest 5 minutes of the film, is the zoo visit. to me feels very immersion breaking. Think about it, right? Outside of that, scenes that take place are sort of timeless, or it's agnostic of the time period it's in. Houses, there's nothing that pins it to a modern time setting. But when they go to the zoo, it just feels like the color grading is different. It's a lot more grays, and it's not warm. When you see steel bars, and otherwise the rest of the movie is all wood panels, and like soft lighting or warm lighting. And the 2-3 minutes that they spend, I understand why it's important. It is laying the groundwork for him knowing parcel tongue. It is laying the and I think in universe, every wizard has that first 1 or 2 moments where they inadvertently perform magic, right? And that's when they realize, hey, I've activated in me or whatever. So I realize the importance of the scene, but for the wrong reasons. That scene is embedded in my mind for feeling like the most un-Harry Potter scene in the film. I know it sounds ironic, but it's like memorable, but for the wrong reasons. That was the first moment I wanted to talk about. Again, that's not to say that's the first memorable moment in the film, because right off the bat, when you have Dumbledore sort of land onto Privet Drive, and he opens his lighter and all the lights come in, right off the bat, you're like, hey, there's something different. Like, you're placed in a magical setting where unexpected things are going to happen. Uh, like I said, every scene could be memorable, right? Right off the bat, you get into it. But I sort of wanted to spend a couple of minutes on that scene just because of how much it stands out from the rest.
The snake does thank him, right? It thanks him in the book as well. But I think
Yeah.
that the conversation in the book is a lot. Hmm. The conversation in the books is Brazil, here I come, thanks, amigo, and it goes away. Some along the lines.
I'm glad they dropped that. Yeah, this
Yeah,
thanks is
right. And then
good.
the snake just goes, thanks, anytime. And then off he goes. I think that earlier section, right up to there are little bits, right? Like you said, these moments of inadvertent magic that happen. Then the letters from no one, which is a big chapter in the book, but then it has that moment where essentially the Privet Drive house is engulfed in letters from Hogwarts, and then they eventually go to a cabin somewhere in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. That's when Hagrid visits him and tells him he's a wizard. In the movie, he's a lot more calm about it. In the book, he's just pissed off with like Dursley keeps yelling at him. My favorite section, I think, generally in this entire film is probably the introduction to the world, where they walk into the leaky cauldron. He meets a bunch of people. He meets Quirrell there, and there's a really nice like touch here where Harry goes to shake Quirrell's hand and Quirrell backs off. And you're like, oh, okay, that is about to come back. You don't notice it at first because, like, obviously. And then it comes into play much later. What I love the most is the construction of Diagon Alley and how it looks. It's so iconic that the wizarding worlds of Harry Potter that exist, the theme parks that exist, have recreated the look from the film from scratch. You walk in through the small wall and you essentially to a cobbled street filled with shops on either sides leading up to Gringotts. The only change being is that the decrepit old dragon is like atop the Gringotts bank, and you can walk in and get a glass of butterbeer, which people seem to like rave about.
What is butterbeer? Like, have you had it?
I have not, but from what I've heard, it's like the sweet caramel like thing. It's non-alcoholic. It's like a fizzy
Ew.
caramel like drink, but it's really foamy at the top, and it's supposed to be excellent. So
Oh,
I'm very curious about of what it is, because I assume when you're creating like real life butterbeer, there is a lot of emphasis from the top brass being like, you can't fuck this up. Like this
yeah.
is a generation of children have gone their entire lives thinking of, oh, how delicious butterbeer is going to be. It sounds great. It's butter and beer.
But it also can't be alcoholic because kids are having it. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
exactly. Yeah.
I wondered when I'd be seeing you, Mr. Potter.
But let's get into Ollivanders and how John Hurt is like perfect casting for this, because I mean the moment you see him, you're like, yeah, you're Ollivander. And this is where you have the big introductory moment where you're like, oh, you have the same wand as Voldemort, and this is the reason. This is the seeds of where it's first put together. This is also the sequence where you're introduced to Hedwig. So I guess as a child, you wanted two things in life. You wanted an owl and you wanted a wand. And of course, you wanted the letter to go to Hogwarts, which I think everybody
Yeah.
was like, I don't know, like secretly hope against hope that they'd get one
Yeah.
back in like the early 2000s. We've all had that phase where we're like, oh, I wish I got that letter, because we were so sick of our reality. Even now, as a 35-year-old, I'm like, okay, someone send me a letter.
Someone send me a letter, bro.
I'll just chill somewhere in the grounds, man. I'll be Hagrid. I'll try and grow a beard if you want me to.
I'm ready to be Filch also. It's okay.
I wasn't a cat person when I first saw this movie, but now I'm very much a cat person. So give me my Mrs. Norris.
Yeah, seriously. But anyways, that's wish fulfillment aside. I agree with you. John Hurt sort of walks into the picture of Ollivander you had uh, in your mind, right? I would say in the same sequence, right? I would put the entire Diagon Alley section of the film together as one memorable moment, right? And bunch of important things happen in that sequence. There's him meeting Ollivander. Then there's him walking into Gringotts and finding out that he's fucking loaded.
We were saying on while watching the movie yesterday, if this movie happened in India, that money would have long gone. Somebody would have come with with papers being like, "Hey, I'm distant cousin, like also Potter, some Potter." They would have
Yeah, and
taken the money, cleaned out his vault.
I mean, if the movie had been realistic, dude's already achieved fire. He doesn't need to work. He doesn't need to go to school. I'd have been like, cash out, put it in whatever FD or whatever the hell equivalent they have in the Wizarding World, and just live off interest. Actually, I don't know if what the Wizarding World financial system is like. Do they have a stock market? I'm sure somebody would have asked this to
She is
J.K.
like,
Rowling.
yeah, I'm sure they were, and she is like, there are three things. There is gallons, sickles, and nuts, which I
Nuts.
think.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the current day version of Hogwarts? There is a kid from India who's been selected. Let's call him Amit something, and he's gone, and he's paying with fucking coins. And back home, he's got like UPI and like digital
Yeah, he'll
India.
be like, this fucking Wizarding World is ancient, dude. They need to get with the times. Anyway,
Okay, let's quickly move on.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, let's quickly move on. So then again, there's the Hogwarts Express. Getting onto the Hogwarts Express, I think a lot of you know. For those of you who don't know, at King's Cross Station, there is a dedicated part of the station which has a wall with a half a trolley going through it, and it's like a picture spot. Like a bunch of people come there and take pictures. When I first happened to like chance upon it in London, I was like, why are there people here? Why is it so crowded? And then you look and you see that, that's where like the trolley situation is. A friend of mine asked me yesterday while we were watching, he's like, why did they not just put it on the platform? Like, bro, imagine if you put it on the platform. Imagine the chaos if you're trying to
Yeah,
get to
yeah,
a
yeah.
train on either platform 9 or platform 10. You would have been in hell. So this gives a spot for where like a bunch of people can take pictures, can go access the merchandise store close by, and be a part of that experience. But coming back to the film, once he gets on the train and you meet Ron, you meet Hermione for the first time, and instantly you're like, okay, Hermione's a bit of an ass. Even back then, also you're like, okay, a bit of a know-it-all. I know that character. I know that type. They exist in school.
Yeah.
Ron is always like your goofy friend who's part of the friend circle, who's always like figuring stuff out, and there's something or the others like off about him.
You've got dirt on your nose, by the way. Did you know? Just there.
Is it only the first years who travel by boat to the castle?
Yes.
And we were discussing as to why this is the case. I think they want the first years to also be as impressed as we were when we first saw it. I used a very Gen Z description of this event where I said they're on the boat and in the distance they see like Hogwarts aura farming in as you approach it, and mm, you're just like, wow, okay, I am excited to study here. And I guess the movie captures that essence really well. I think with them in the boats with the lanterns. Now it's just a sequence of like the greatest hits of the Philosopher's Stone. Right now,
Yeah.
you go from this, you go to this, you meet Draco Malfoy, and I think Tom Felton is wonderfully cast. I think Tom Felton is just the bass in his voice where he goes is
Yeah.
that disgust, and that when you picture like an asshole elitist, Draco Malfoy is the guy that pops into your head.
Draco Malfoy is that guy in your class, the first guy to have gotten a pilot pen or, that China fountain pen. And then they'd come to you
Mhm.
like, you don't have pilot pen. Like, why? Are you poor? And in your head, you're like, fuck, fucker. Draco is that guy.
Yeah, so Draco's that guy, and he continues to be that guy for a very long time. Bro, I think we could go into basically the rest of the film just like running through chapter by
Exactly.
chapter, which can
Exactly.
get quite boring from like an episode perspective. But I want to understand, is there like a particular part of this film that you adore? Like for me, I think The Quidditch sequence is definitely up there. I've watched it
Yeah.
a bunch of times. You can tell, if you watch it now, you can tell the CGI is like a little all over the place. And the sport of Quidditch makes no sense if you really just sit down and think about it. Like, you just beat the shit out of each other. I don't know what Madam Hooch is doing. Madam Hooch is like the worst referee of all
Yeah.
time.
And what sort of game is this with kids where, it is okay to like beat the shit? Like you have somebody called beaters. The red flags were there all along. You created a
The
game with a position
and
called beaters.
no, how do you position? So I'm trying to understand this. Let's say you are a Quidditch coach.
Yes.
Is your tactic to outscore the team, like beat the holy crap out of the team and let their seeker catch the snitch? Or are you like, fuck it, just catch the snitch and end this game?
Is nobody else other than the seeker allowed to catch the snitch? What happens if
I have no idea. I have like no
yeah,
this thing
nobody's
about it.
asked
But
this,
I'm,
right?
I
So
guess
then if I would take a
yeah.
Mourinho approach where I have a goalie and even my beaters are standing next to him, I will stack the back line so nobody is scoring with the quaffle. And I'll tell all my other players, fuck the quaffle, let them play with their balls. You, all three of you, your job is to find the snitch and just brute force the shit out of it, right? Like hound the snitch.
No, what I would essentially do in this scenario is fuck, let the team score. Like the keeper needs to keep the opposition chasers at bay. The two beaters have one job. You basically cover the area where the seeker is,
And beat the
wherever he
shit
is,
out of
and just fucking send the bludger back and forth till he falls off his broom.
him.
I am Jose Mourinho.
Every Quidditch match, one seeker is dying. The seeker is like this Hunger Games sacrifice, right? Where if you get picked, odds of you dying are high. It's like whoever gets picked as seeker, bro, like write your will. Gladiatorial fights at this point. Dumbledore is
Like,
like,
if I were
kill the
Voldemort,
seeker.
like, if I were Voldemort, I'd just pay the kids, be like, beat the shit out of that kid.
Yeah.
Make sure he dies. And they're like, ah. And he goes, Harry Potter. But to be fair, Voldemort does try to pull stunts in this Quidditch game where Harry's broom just starts like,
Spazzing.
it starts acting spazzing, and spazzing is the word. Then they realize it could be Snape that's the one that's doing it. And the big moment in this is when Harry catches the snitch with his mouth. But anyway, the point being, game makes no sense from a tactical perspective. Could do better. I know I haven't read. I mean, I've read Quidditch through the ages, donkeys years ago. I don't know if she ever got into like the tactical aspect. Is there like a Guardiola Quidditch version, or there's a Mourinho Quidditch version somewhere there? It was like, okay, we're going to play possession-based Quidditch, or we're going to play like park the bus Quidditch. What is the different tactics that are approached
Yeah.
that you can pull here?
I mean, if we really want to poke at it,
Yeah.
I'm sure many aspects of the world will not hold up to intense scrutiny, but that's not the point. I mean, jokes apart, the idea is to sort of immerse yourself and don't think too hard.
Yeah, I think that's what this movie kind of does. It's like, okay, don't overstress, don't think. And I guess that kind of what makes it such a classic, where you're like, and we mentioned this earlier on about how there's danger, but it's not the worst. Yes, the Dark Lord could come back, but we've got a handle on it. And my favorite part of this, and this was pointed out to me yesterday, is that Voldemort is a really nice guy. Voldemort cares about these children's future because he never attacks during the school year. He attacks at the end of the school year. When everyone's exams are completed and they're through to the second year. If he dies, Harry dies well and good. If he doesn't die, he's going to his second year. He's going to complete his education.
Yeah.
Right up to, I think, when Harry himself decides, or rather, that he can't go back to Hogwarts because the Death Eaters are all there. By the time he gets to Voldemort is like primary school education you have. Secondary school we can think about later.
Correct.
Okay.
Another memorable moment that I wanted to mention, while for the most part the movie is very kid friendly and it's la la la, light-hearted, whatever, right? The Forbidden Forest scene and the unicorn blood scene, like it's from 2 movies later, right? Like the Forbidden Forest genuinely is scary. And when Harry comes across that dead unicorn, I think that's the first time they show something dead on screen in the Harry Potter films. If my memory serves me right, it's being there, right? And somebody's drinking its blood, and then it floats towards Harry and whatnot. That bit, as a kid, I was like, "Whoa, okay! I did not expect this tone in this film."
Fuck being a kid. As an adult now, if I have children and you are sending my children to a forest for detention that are filled with creatures that are drinking unicorn blood, and like all sorts of batshit crazy things are happening. I would be in the school the first thing the next day. I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, seriously.
Like,
These
how is
kids
this
have
detention? Make them write like,
these parents have way too much faith in the Hogwarts system. Yeah.
I mean, when you doesn't register as a child, you're like, go Forbidden Forest or you never go there. The forest is always there. It's never going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like there are creatures there that hate humans, like the centaurs, like in Bane and Ferenz. I mean, as much as Ferenz saves Harry's life with the whole unicorn blood and and all that, that sequence is kind of terrifying to watch if you're a child. Now,
Yeah.
when you watch it back, you're like, I see how much of a set it looks like. If I see, imagine, right? If you enroll the same year Harry enrolls in Hogwarts, the first year you have Dark Lord coming back. The second year, there's a fucking snake going around like petrifying people. The third year, there's a serial killer coming into the school. Fourth year, a big huge ass tournament which nobody does the fucking logistics on, and like with terrible security measures.
Yeah.
The fifth year you have straight up fascism.
Yeah.
The sixth year you have fascism gets worse, and the seventh year the Dark Lord comes to visit. Like you're like, bro, I just want my child to have an education. Like, what are we doing here?
Seriously, I was like, hey, I just want career, bro. What is happening here? Like wild 7 years.
Exactly.
And like even generally, like
Why?
we have Forbidden Forest, you have the lake which have more people in it. You have like how are kids in in Hogwarts not dying all over the place, right? How is
I'm
the
sure. Like I'm
mortality
sure
rate
it's some
not higher?
like in the 1800s, there are kids who are just willfully walking into the Forbidden Forest and just dying. They're like, fuck it.
Okay, before we get too dark, but yeah, I just wanted to highlight this memorable moment.
And this is another thing that I want to get past. So like you have we've gone through all of those moments. We've also like when Harry first flies the broom, a lot of things happen to him. And I guess another appeal is that he seems like a normal guy that things keep happening to. And for us, for the most part,
He is a bit of a Mary Sue. Like he is
100% a Mary Sue.
effortlessly, fantabulously
Gary.
rich. Gary Sue, yeah, if you will. First right attempt on the broom right off the bat, he's like the Max Verstappen of the wizarding world. Youngest seeker in 100 years. He's like, bro, iska to mast chal raha hai.
I noticed this time around in the board when they goes to show him, when Hermione says it's in your blood, and she goes to show him the badge, the James Potter badge, that he was the Seeker. If you look to the right of that image, McGonagall's name is also up there. So McGonagall herself was a Seeker for which is why she is able to spot talent. She understands, oh, this guy knows technique, and I was like, oh, cool. Like whenever McGonagall scout in another life.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
My favorite bit of trivia about this is like Dame Maggie Smith interacting with children many years later. Like obviously for her, it kind of resurrected her career in the 90s, and she became like a household name once more. And a child went up to her. She speaks about this on the Graham Norton show. A child went up to her and said, "Can you really turn into a cat?" And she gave her the most like English answer ever, saying, "Don't be silly or don't be an idiot."
Yeah, I would say something
Perfect.
similar. Like, who is your school teacher? Like, why is this a valid question in your mind? I mean, see, we could go through memorable moments. I think everybody has this movie seared in their minds, right? We're not doing anybody a service.
Exactly.
We're recalling stuff everybody knows in and out. But I do have one question, and this has bothered me ever since in fact, the first time I watched the film. So at the end, when you find out Quirrell's the bad guy and whatever, right? The stone is in his hand, and he touches Quirrell's face, it burns. Voldemort leaves Quirrell's body in the spectral form. Whatever, he passes through Harry, right? What exactly is happening there? Harry's just standing there, like, and he's just shouting, right? Like, ah! And
he falls back. Yeah,
Voldemort just left. Like, what happened?
Voldemort's like, I can't do it today. He's like, I can't take this kid on.
In that moment, Voldemort was like gas, right? Like you have bad gas, your stomach hurt. You know that one fart, and then you're like, oof, done. That's exactly like, Harry was like, oh, done, relieved. It was that scene is a little weird.
Did you understand the Snape misdirect all along? Like did you always think it was going to be Quirrell?
No.
For me, it was like a big what? Oh my god!
Yeah,
I guess that's well done. I mean, as a child, you're like,
as a child,
you never
well
suspect
done.
Quirrell.
And I mean, they make it fairly like Snape is also chanting during the Quidditch game. Later on, you find out he's doing counter curses, but there's
Counter
enough and
curses,
more
yeah.
for you to think that Snape is the bad guy, right?
What casting, by the way? Alan Rickman is on fucking point as Snape.
I mean, see, it's a tough pick in the cast to say who is best casted.
I think just everyone is, yeah.
But like gun to head, if I had to pick one, it would probably be Alan Rickman.
So good as Snape. I think just that sliminess that you'd associated with the character in the books is just on screen.
Yeah.
I like props to the new guy who's about to play him. I don't know how you're going to like follow it up. I'm interested
Isn't he
to
black?
see your take. He is black, and I don't know. And Harry is white, and his parents are white, and the idea of a white man white James Potter hanging Snape up by his by his 2 feet is something that people haven't really thought through. It's no wonder like your Snape hates this guy, kid's son, fucking racist motherfucker.
Yeah, it could go so wrong so easily, right? Instead of wizard, if you just call James Potter Grand Wizard, then all of it makes sense.
Your dad, you're a grand imagine the whole movie changes.
We're one
You're a
grand away
grand
from
wizard,
it
Harry.
being a Ku Klux Klan movie. Yeah. So
Oh god.
very easy to go wrong with this. I don't know what they're going to do about it. Yeah. Maybe they cut that scene out.
They should have, like that's the one thing which makes no sense. But I think I mean this movie is just I guess again, like you said, that we've like there are a lot of memorable moments. I just want to spend the last couple of minutes of this just talking about how it makes us feel and why we keep going back to it on a regular basis. We alluded to the fact that it's contained, it has stakes that don't seem world ending but are dangerous enough. I think it also lulls you into a sense of security about what you're watching, about these people. Any movie that makes you want to be a part of its universe, no matter how scary, I think has half the battle. I think the world building in this film is fantastic.
Yeah.
Right from the Great Hall to the trolls to the characters that inhabit it. I don't think that happens without this film's exceptional eye for detail. We spoke about Stuart Craig's production design. We also speak about some of the costume design and how they and how it was updated to stay relevant and how it's still like essentially kickstarted a line of merchandise which is making money for the creator like hand over fist at this point. It is the go-to holiday film because at the end of each year, more often than not, even if you've had a great year, there is a sense of exhaustion that we all have, or at least a majority of us face. And we just want a hug. Like at the end of it, you're like, I need a hug. This movie is that hug.
No, I think for the most part, like I said at the start, I agree with you, right? It's like a warm blanket. It makes you feel nice about yourself. It leaves you with a bit of longing for that world. It puts you in a feel good state of mind, which is, I guess, around this time of the year, viewership spikes without fail year on year. All things considered, always a lovely movie to revisit. And I think a Christmas classic at this point, it's fair to say.
As warm as it is, like imagine you're in Slytherin, right? And you have done, I mean, yes, okay, unfortunately you're in Slytherin, what the fuck? Your family is a bunch of idiots, but you are trying to be better. But you still have the traits and the sorting hat has thrown you into Slytherin. You have done your exceptional best through the year. You have studied, you have aced your classes, you have taken part in sporting activities, anything, right? You have accumulated point after point. You've hard fought. And at the end of the year, a house wins the house cup. And then comes Dumbledore, who's like, fuck it. I like these kids. I'm going to give them 150 points or 180 points because I believe they've shown acts of bravery. And you're just like, fuck this shit.
I mean, in a way, isn't it like life? Like working hard and being present, being there doesn't guarantee success or you getting what you want, right? There are people who have it much easier, stuff just handed to them.
It's about who you know.
It's about who you know. Life and Hogwarts is a popularity contest.
Wow, that's sad. As much as much as we are so sick of this has become an escape from daily lives in general, it's also like not lost on us that a lot of the stuff that we have gripes in our daily lives is celebrated in this universe.
Like you can't critically watch this film, right? The idea is to just watch it. And
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's meant from a critical standpoint. Yes, it's like serviceable. It kind of revitalized, not serviceable, it's a pretty good film. It revitalized the fantasy genre, but there are a lot of things that don't stand the test of time given how society has progressed and how the series also has been like evaluated over the course of the years, where we're like, okay, it is very much a piece of the 90s, late 90s and early 2000s, so we'll treat it as such. And yeah, I think that's kind of why, even in spite of many gripes, it still holds a soft corner in our hearts all these years.
Yeah.
Is this like in the list of the 8, right? Let's not reveal the other 7, but where does this rank?
I would say between third and fourth best for me.
I think I would say third as well. I think this is probably the third best film. Like I can think of 2 other entries that are better, but
Yeah.
let's see. We will after 8 years we'll come back to this.
Yes.
If we're still
Correct.
doing this. But yes, we have come to the end of this episode. Usually we do a theme section. There's no real themes. I mean, we've kind of addressed themes sparingly along the way. We've kept this very free flowing, like it should be. We don't really need to stick to structure at the end of this year. Let's just have a nice, fun episode. And it was a nice, fun episode, albeit we had some technical difficulties, but we've kind of seen them through. We'll be back again in the new year for a new episode. This should be out on Christmas morning or on Christmas Eve. So it should be a companion piece for you post you having watched the Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone, wherever you are. Stay tuned. We'll see you again. Take care. If you haven't liked the video, subscribe to the channel, please do. It really helps us. I'm Abhin and that's Rohit. We'll see you soon. Have
Bye-bye.
a happy new year and Merry Christmas.